There are four types of membranes in the human body. And when we say membrane, we're not talking about a cell membrane. We're talking about membranes that might compartmentalize the body or separate it into sections or protect it from the outside. So one of the first membranes that we have, which almost every student knows, is the cutaneous membrane, which we casually call skin. Right? And this is exposed to the outside because it is the most superficial structure on your body. We also have synovial membranes, which we'll talk about in a later chapter. These are membranes that are around joints in your body, like the elbow and the knee. There are mucous membranes, which are open to the outside, but are inside your body. And there are serous membranes, whose specific problem or specific designation is to remove friction. But serous membranes also help us compartmentalize the body. Serous membranes will be very important to us as we start to look at structures of the body. I love this picture over here on the right of somebody putting their fist into a balloon. Because if we think of their fist as an organ, a serous membrane actually forms two layers of membrane with a fluid-filled space in between. The most superficial membrane is called the parietal membrane. The deep membrane is called the visceral membrane. And the visceral membrane hugs the organ like a stocking, whereas the parietal membrane is kind of like a raincoat shell on the outside. What is most important, though, is this fluid-filled cavity between them. As these two membranes move with the beating of the heart or the enlarging of lungs or intestinal space, this serous membrane allows these organs to expand and contract without producing friction. Here we have the lungs, and they are actually submerged in a serous membrane called the pleura. Over here is the heart, and its serous membrane is called the pericardium. And we also have someone with ascites, because they're filled with fluid in their belly, but we also have the serous membranes that surround the digestive organs, which can have many different names like omenta and mesentery, which mesenteries and omenta are actually like double membranes. So we will always come back to serous membranes with their two layers, parietal, visceral, and the fluid-filled space in between them. Mucous membranes are also notable as one of the four types of membranes. Remember, the four types of membranes included synovial, cutaneous, serous, and mucous. Mucous membranes are all open to the outside. There is an external orifice, one or sometimes two, that lead to the outside. So the respiratory system has one orifice, basically, the nose or the mouth, which join together with the throat. But the respiratory mucous membrane sees air flowing into the dead end sacs in the lung and air flowing back out the same opening. The digestive system has a mucous membrane that starts at the mouth, goes through all of the tube-shaped organs of the digestive system, and then also ends at the anus. So unlike the respiratory system that has one opening, the digestive system has one-way flow with two openings. The urinary system and the reproductive systems, depending on what your sex chromosome designation is, can be a little different. For people that are XY designated, the reproductive and urinary organs use the same external orifice. So people who are XY, their urinary and reproductive systems share the same mucous membrane. If you are an XX individual, Your reproductive orifice from the vagina is very separate than your urinary orifice of the urethra, and thus the mucous membranes are separate. This down here is a tube-shaped organ. Anything, right? Anus, mouth, nose, urethra, doesn't matter. What we see here is that these are cuboidal cells, and they are all lining an inner lumen. And the green layer here is mucus. And this is the definition of a mucous membrane, that it has cells that secrete mucus against the lumen, preventing it from drying out. This little square here enhances this inset. So these are our cuboidal cells. This is the mucus that the cuboidal cells are secreting. It has an inner and outer layer. Usually the inner layer is flooded with immunoglobulins, which are also called antibodies. There are other enzymes and proteins capable of breaking down bacteria very quickly. The outer mucus layer contains things that want to get into your body but are not allowed to get into your body. And then, of course, we have the lumen, which is the open space of whatever external orifice that there is. So it's important to remember that mucous membranes are open to the outside, but it's also important to remember that they have to stay moist. In fact, their ability to function correctly depends on their ability to stay moist. So if you are someone who takes certain prescriptions that dry out your mouth, it is very important to do things to make sure that your mouth stays moist, because your mouth is lined with the mucous membrane. And that mucous membrane provides you with antimicrobial proteins and other things that can prevent you from getting infections.